Hey everyone, so this is my video project for the Business Class 340 Leadership. So the first question that I will be discussing is describe the different leadership styles and how they are used and what situations they are used in. So the four leadership styles I will be talking about is autocratic leadership, democratic leadership, visionary leadership, and also coaching leadership. So the first one I'm starting with is autocratic leadership. So basically, autocratic leadership is centered on the boss. It's the leadership of the leader that holds all the authority and responsibility. And in this leadership, leaders make decisions on their own without consulting subordinates. And this is basically used in a sense how a leader sort of dictates other people and they don't have anyone else to go to because basically they are the main boss. And situations that this is used in, I would probably say, any business company where there is a CEO. Obviously a CEO is of the highest level, so they don't have to go to other people. They are the main boss and they are the ones who control all of the other departments, and they don't really have to go to anyone else because obviously they are the CEO and they know what they're doing. And the second leadership style is also democratic leadership. So, in democratic leadership, basically it's all about the subordinates that are involved in making decisions. With autocratic leadership, that leader doesn't have any other contributions. And while in democratic leadership, while they hold final responsibility, they also do, take authority to other people and they determine like what they're doing. Like they take the opinions of others in their work. And I would say how what situations these are used in is in the culinary world, because although there's a main chef, although he is the leader and the main boss, they do take suggestions from other people, and they don't just rely on their own opinion, because obviously when you're making food, your chef wants to get, not only your opinion, but the opinion of other people in the kitchen as well, so they can all execute properly and, like, you can all agree on something, so you're preparing the right things, if that makes any sense. The third leadership style that I will be talking about is visionary leadership. And visionary leadership involves leaders who recognize that their methods, steps, and processes of leadership are obtained with and through people. Most great and successful leaders have the aspects of visions in them. And I would say this type of leadership style, I would think of how this would be used in like the art committee, anyone who has like an art major, because I believe if you're trying to teach people how to create art, it's not something you can just teach verbally. It's something that you really do have to visually show people how to do. Also with cooking as well. Like you can't just read a book and then think you'll know how to cook. Like you have to visually see what to do, how to do certain things. And even though those are both different professions, they both have the sort of same leadership style. And the fourth leadership style I'll be talking about is coaching leadership, and that involves teaching and supporting followers. A coaching leader is highly operational in settings where results and performance require improvement. So, you know, where this leadership style would be used in would be coaching any sort of team, whether it's baseball, basketball, football. It's like you have a coach, and that coach will be teaching other players. And obviously, this leader is just there to teach you, and he wants you to improve, and he sees where, you're faulty in certain aspects of, like, how you play, that would be probably the best situation that I would view coaching leadership. And the second question that I'll be answering is, what techniques can leaders use to motivate their followers or colleagues? What are the benefits and downfalls of each technique? So, the first technique that I would say to motivate followers is reminding them of how needed they are in the company or place wherever you're working at. Because I believe if you are connecting with people and you tell them like how they're really needed in a company and like what skills they provide, like how important they are, like that really motivates someone. Because some people will leave a job because they just assume that they're like, I just can't do this anymore. Like I feel like I'm doing the same thing every day. But you have to make people think that, oh well, like just because you're doing the same thing every day doesn't mean you're not important, you know? And the second thing, the second technique that I thought of was telling them how great they're doing. Because some people lose motivation because they're not told what they're doing is right, even though they know what they're doing is right. But when you have a leader who physically tells you, like, you're working very well and you're very committed, like, that really gets people to want to keep doing what they're doing and want to learn more, which I think is very important for a leader. Leaders, not only should lead people, but like also keep them on the right track. And I also said that another technique could be explaining future plans. For example, if you are in the culinary field and you're just, a garde manger chef, like a cold appetizer chef, and you want to be like on the line, like executive chef one day, like I think if you really do work hard, like your leader will tell you, if you just keep doing what you're doing, you can move up those executive positions. And that's something that I think a lot of people strive for. They don't want to just, stay in the same position. They obviously want to work up, build their way up. And leaders should totally tell those people, how well they're doing and like how great their work ethic is, so that they could, rise up to the occasion and actually, contribute more and more to the point where they're not just in the smaller positions, they actually get up into higher positions. And the fourth technique that I mentioned and motivate followers and colleagues is passion. Some people lose their passion for things, which makes them lose their motivation. But if you are reminded that you love what you're doing, that will definitely get people to keep doing what they're doing, even though they're doing this job. Let's say you were doing a job for like so and so years, and they're like, I just don't want to do this anymore. It's like you have to remember why you're doing something, like what made you want to do this. And that's what a leader should be reminding their followers. Like, you're doing this for a reason. Like, you didn't just come here and did this job because you just needed the money. Like, some jobs you're doing it for the money, but if it's something that you really do love, I think you need to remind yourself how much you actually love it. And the third question I'll be answering is, define the responsibilities of both the followers and the leaders. Explain what happens when one of them does not meet the responsibilities. So I think the responsibility for a leader is to, obviously lead, but to lead in a way that isn't too aggressive. Like, you should be leading to the point where people actually want to listen to you. And you should also, be leading in a sense that is not how do I say this? Like, you shouldn't, like I said, like be aggressive about it. It should be something that just flows very easy. Because if you're sort of like a dictator within a group, people won't really respect you as much. They'll just do what you do because, they have to and it's a job. But if you're a leader that people actually care about, people will actually lead, they will actually follow you and they will actually want to keep working. And I think the responsibility of a follower is to, obviously pay attention, listen to their leader, I think it's also very important to have a lot of respect for your leader because, they are taking time out of their day and working hard. And, when you can tell when there's a follower and they're talking to a leader and they don't have any respect for them. And I think people should be very respectful to their leaders because they're here to teach them. And if they're taking time out of their day to teach you, you might as well give it your all and actually listen. Because I believe that some followers believe that they know what they're doing, like they're more well educated and better than their leaders, which I totally disagree on. If a leader is teaching you and trying to get you to do better, I think the least you can do is like actually listen to them and don't try to question their needs. But, there are some situations where you want to talk to a leader and like tell them how you could do something better, which is fine. Like I totally think I think actually one of the responsibilities of a leader is listening to their followers because, just because someone knows more than you doesn't mean that they know all information. I think leaders can also learn from their followers. So if a follower actually wants to contribute, a leader should totally be okay with it. They shouldn't mind actually like taking advice from followers. I mean, obviously, if it's in a totally respectful way, because leaders do know more than followers. And I think another responsibility for a follower is actually working hard because some followers will just do what they do for leaders, but they sort of like half-ass it, if that's the technical term. And I think if you are a follower to a leader, you should always give it your 100%. You shouldn't just do like a poor, not totally like great job at something just because you want to get it done. Like, no, if you're going to do something, you should do it all the way and do it with a lot of compassion. The fourth question that I will be answering is, what are the challenges facing leaders in regards to multiple generation in the workplace? That's a great question. Actually, I'm going to bring this back to the kitchen because, as a culinary student, we have a lot of leaders and followers. So there was this one restaurant I worked at, and this restaurant was filled with a bunch of people from different generations, and one of the main chefs there was actually, a younger man, and him and this other guy I knew, like, they were very good friends, but, this guy had to understand that even though they were friends at work, that was his leader, and you needed to treat your leader with respect. So there was this situation where the leader was telling the follower, like, oh, like, you think you're better than me, you don't respect me. And I think that it's a challenge when you're a leader, but you're also young, because then people assume that you don't take yourself, like, you shouldn't take that leader seriously. Just because you're young doesn't mean you shouldn't be treated with respect. And I also think because I am a younger student in culinary school, I'm, 20, and everyone thinks I'm like a child because everyone who goes to Kendall is like 30 years old. And they think that I don't have what it takes, but I think that's also a challenge, like being younger, like people just think you don't work hard, but I think that I do work hard, and I think the older generations seem to understand just because you're older doesn't mean you're smarter or better. Not saying that older generations aren't, smart people and can do better, but, younger generations aren't, lazy and don't do their work. So that's what I think is a challenge, because younger generations are assumed to be not hard workers and older generations are known to be hard workers. And I think that, anyone of any age can work hard, and anyone of any age can not only be a follower but can also be a leader as well. And the last question I'll be answering is, describe the concept of team dynamics and the challenges leaders face in regards to team dynamics. So I think that team dynamics are very, very, very important when you are working in a group and there's a leader, because obviously when you're in a team, you have to work with everybody regardless if you like them or not. And if you're not getting a good team dynamic together, not only will the leader see that, it also reflects on the work you're doing. Like, for example, I will go back to culinary. If you are working with a team and you all have different ideas and you're disagreeing and you're all trying to make, let's say you're trying to make like one dish and you're all working together, but you don't like each other, you're not working well, your negative attitude will reflect on the final dish you have. And leaders can tell when you're working with people, like how well you work, whether you're alone or with those certain type of people, because it reflects on your work. And I think it's hard when you have to work with someone that you don't like, but at the end of the day, it's something that leaders have to realize. They have to, just put your hatred aside, just to clarify, just to like make sure that everything they're doing is done correctly. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you don't like somebody, it matters if you all can get your work done and get it done right. So this is my midterm project for leadership class. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you have a very good day.